Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, presented by Enterprise. Amanda Guerra, Chris Hassel with you here on a Wednesday. It is a whirlwind of a weekend, Chris. We get Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. U.S. Open begins tomorrow. And later today, Angel Reese joining the program. Right. She and the Chicago Sky get ready to take on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. We saw what happened in Game 1. Yeah. So excited for this rematch.
Yeah, Kennedy Carter with the shove on Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark getting the last laugh with the victory. That game is this Sunday on CBS. An exclusive interview with Angel Reese is coming up. A lot of history with Caitlin Clark going back to college. Of course, Reese and LSU beat Iowa in the national championship game back in '23. Then Clark's Iowa team knocked Angel Reese and LSU out of the Elite Eight this upcoming season, and now their second matchup in the WNBA. The Sky and the Fever Sunday at noon Eastern. Again, Angel Reese exclusive interview coming up a little bit later.
The golf greats have made it to Pinehurst, North Carolina ahead of this week's U.S. Open. The third major of the year, the course Pinehurst #2 is served as the site for more golf championships than any other course in America. This will be the fourth time the U.S. Open has been played there. It is the greens on this course that make it incredibly menacing. Got to tell you, the groupings for Thursday, they are must-watch TV with world number 1, 2, and 3, Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, all teeing off just after 1 Eastern. Tiger Woods also returning to the course, and this one may be of benefit to him. Let's welcome in our golf greats, Doug Bell, Patrick McDonald here. I mentioned the greens at Pinehurst #2. The word that has been used to describe them is menacing. You don't have that thick rough surrounding greens. The balls can easily roll off into those waist areas. Doug, what else do we need to know about this course and what sets it apart?
Well, it's absolutely brutal, and I'm not sure the winning score on Sunday will be under par. That's how difficult it's going to play. Remember now, 10 years ago, Martin Keimer was 9 under par, won by 8 shots. That was like mind-blowing. He got to 9 under par. But that year, 70% of the field hit fairways off the tee. So the fairways are wide, but the greens is where it gets really, really tough. You mentioned the upside down saucers, these greens. You go from 70% of the field hitting the fairways to just over 50% hitting the greens. So that's where the trouble lies. This golf course is different than it was 10 years ago. The natural areas, the nature area off the fairway is it's much more, it's hard to predict what you're going to have when you get over there. And that is the problem for these great players. There's a lot of question marks heading into this major championship, and they don't like it, but they embrace it because it is the U.S. Open.
I'm glad Doug brought up the question marks, because it seems like Pinehurst is going to ask these guys a question on every single shot. And you think back to last month at Valhalla, the main question was who can hit it the furthest and who can hit the mid iron the best. And that is not going to be the case at Pinehurst #2. Off the tee, it's going to be, hey, do you want to get aggressive? Do you want to push the ball forward so you can get a wedge in hand or a short iron in hand and risk the chance of hitting it into this chicken wire, into this these bushes, the sandy native areas, and potentially be dead, honestly? Or you could draw a great lie. It's kind of rub of the green for the U.S. Open, and then coming into the greens on approach, are you going to be okay hitting it to 40 feet all the time? Like Doug said, these guys only hit the green 56% of the time, and around the green is really where this championship is going to lie, right? We've seen guys like Tiger Woods exclusively hit 4 irons. Colin Morikawa's hitting fairway woods. Mackenzie Hughes said he's a good enough wedge player where he can take that 60-degree wedge. And then Xander Schauffele's like, I'm going to putt everything, kind of like Martin Keimer. So kind of all these different options off the tee, on approach, around the green as well, is what makes this test so difficult.
You guys talking about just how difficult it is there, that it's going to be won on the greens. World #1 Scottie Scheffler is the favorite to win this look. I mean, he has been on a tear. He has won 5 of his last 8, including a major, and it feels like there's nothing Scottie can't do right now. If you had to, a tiny little hole, one little pinprick in his game may be his putting on occasion. Patrick, how does this course set up for Scottie?
I think it's a perfect Scottie Scheffler course, to tell you the truth, right? Pinehurst #2, it asks you to be long and accurate off the tee. He's not the longest, he's not the accurate, but when you put those two together, he is #1 in total driving. It asks you to hit high towering long irons into greens. Guess what? Scottie Scheffler is the best long iron player in the world, and it asks you to have deft touch around the greens as well. And Scottie Scheffler is minimum top 3 around the green in the world of golf as well. I think if you want to poke a hole in Scottie Scheffler, what might bite him in the bud, it might just be the rub of the green of the U.S. Open, the variability of it all. Like I said, he might catch a bad lie. He might miss his spot on the green, maybe just by a couple feet, and it'll go tumbling 40 yards away. And that's the only thing I see tripping up Scottie Scheffler this week. He's not going to have to deal with any extracurriculars, you would think, like he did at the PGA Championship. His game's obviously in a fantastic spot, but it's the U.S. Open, and weird stuff happens at the U.S. Open, and the world #1 is not immune to that.
He could have won last year at the LA Country Club. He could have won 2 years ago at Brookline when Matthew Fitzpatrick won. So he's always there, and I think he will be there come Sunday, final 9 holes. His name will be right up there among the top 10. There's no question. But here's the deal. He won last week at a really difficult golf course. He's won the Masters. He's won the Players. He's won 5 times. Sooner or later, Lady Luck will bounce the wrong way. I mean, let's be honest. Last week, he overcomes a triple bogey and holds it together to win Jack's tournament. Listen, he's #1 for a reason. Statistically, nobody's even remotely close to him. But I think one tough tournament after another, you just can't keep knocking those dominoes down. And I think Lady Luck will shine in somebody else. I do think he'll be a top 10 guy. I mean, he's an auto top 10, but I just don't think he'll win another major championship, at least this U.S. Open this week.
Everyone in the world is chasing Scottie Scheffler, including Xander Schauffele. But one of the only golfers who's managed to get the better of Scottie Scheffler at the PGA Championship, winning his first major there. Does he have any sort of benefit over any of the guys in this field? I mean, could he come away with a win? Doug, we'll start with you. Sorry.
Yeah, Xander, he's got the confidence level, Amanda. Now that he's won a major championship, it's like a shark in bloody waters. He wants more. He's thirsty. He wants to go after more. And I think that win was so significant for Xander. It got the monkey off his back. You know, the best players never won a major. We've heard that time and time again. He's heard it, and now he has the Wanamaker Trophy, and he wants that USGA trophy. I mean, listen, and talk about a history. He's 7 for 7 cuts made in the U.S. Open, 6 of those top 10. The other one was a tie for 15th. So this guy, again, we mentioned Scheffler set up perfectly for USGA setup. So is Xander Schauffele. And the fact he'll be playing with Scottie and Rory, the top 3 players in the world rankings the first 2 days. The best players are right there. You're playing with them. So we'll see how Xander shows off. And I think he'll show off quite nicely.
I totally agree there, Doug. And you mentioned 7 straight cuts in the U.S. Open, 7 top 15 finishes to start his career. Only Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen have done that. Jack Nicklaus has the longest record with 12 straight. I think Xander will push towards that, right? I think he'll get to number 8 this week, because if not for Scottie Scheffler, who's obviously running through the world of golf, we'd be talking a lot more about how good Xander Schauffele is playing. He hasn't missed a cut since the 2022 Masters. He's as consistent as they come. He contended last year at LACC, was the 18 and 36 hole leader, shot one of his two 62s in major championships in the first round there. And the U.S. Open's just perfect for him. He's super long and straight off the tee, which is going to be super beneficial there at Pinehurst #2. He has the temperament, and he obviously has the game. So I expect Xander Schauffele to give it a significant go come the weekend at major #2.
And he's done well at the U.S. Open. All 7 times he started there, or played there, I should say. He has finished in the top 15. We got to talk about Tiger Woods. And there is a little room for optimism. Tiger's left a lot to be desired the last couple times we've seen him. I was listening to Kyle Porter. He said, look, this is a thinking man's course. It's also flatter. It's going to be warmer. All good things for Tiger Woods. Patrick, how do you think we see Tiger over the weekend? Does he make it to the weekend, I should say?
I think he does. I think he does. And the sports books, they kind of have it the opposite way. But like KP said, if there's ever a chance for Tiger Woods to show vintage Tiger Woods in 2024, you would have to think it's this week at Pinehurst #2. He has everything going for him. He has the early, late tee time split. He has the weather. It's supposed to be 90, might even touch 100. That's great for Tiger Woods. He'll switch through that Sunday red polo a couple times if he has to. It's firm and fast out there. It's a thinking man golf course. Par is going to be a good score. Valhalla was never going to be a good course fit with him, with all the rough, with all the birdies needed out there to compete, but that won't be the case this week at Pinehurst. So yes, I think he has a pretty good chance to make the cut and maybe even show something over the weekend, because that's been the thing about Tiger Woods so far since 2022 is the weekends have been really ugly. They've been tough to watch, and I think if there's ever a chance for him to show us a little bit over the weekend, it's this week.
I hope you're right. Last 12 major championships, no top 20s for the great Tiger Woods. I saw a one-side bet over under 73.5 for his opening round score. I think he'll be well over 73. I do not think he's going to make the cut. And listen, he's playing under a USGA special exemption, and he deserves it. Jack got 8, Arnie got 5. Tiger deserves to be there. He was honored last night with the Bobby Jones Award, which is the highest honor given out by the USGA. But this man is really a ceremonial golfer now. Does not get to work on his game like he once did. He's still injury prone. Takes him a long time to get ready. I mean, this is the toughest test in professional golf, and maybe tougher than ever now at Pinehurst. When you compare him to the other great players of today's game, he simply doesn't compare. Looks great, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, and we'll see it tomorrow, he is going to struggle. Unfortunately, I don't believe the great Tiger Woods will play into the weekend at Pinehurst.
Okay, two opposite sides there when it comes to Tiger Woods making it to Saturday. Let's do a pick to win here. And Patrick, I'm going to start with you because this is a very popular pick. A lot of people going with Hideki Matsuyama, whether it is a pick to win or just finish in the top 20. Why do you like him so much?
That's never a good sign, Amanda. I wish you didn't tell me that. Yeah, it's the public mush is on Hideki. Knowing him, he'll probably withdraw after 3 holes on Thursday now. But I love him because of what he can do in firm and fast, difficult conditions. Right, he's one of the best long iron players in the world. He ranks inside the top 10 in terms of proximity from over 200 yards. He's really good on golf courses where greens and regulation are a premium, because guess what? He is #1 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained around the green. And you look back the last 12 months, there are 2 guys in the world of golf who rank inside the top 10 in strokes gained approach and strokes gained around the green. One of them is, surprisingly, Scottie Scheffler. Who would have thought that? But the other is Hideki Matsuyama. He's a major champion. He has a great U.S. Open record, and I think it's time for him to knock down major #2.
Guys, there's 156 players teeing off in the U.S. Open, and I really believe there's only about 36 guys who have a chance to win this thing. It is that brutal of a game. And the guy I like is that big man, Sepp Straka. Now, remember Scottie Scheffler. He was the captain's pick 4 years ago. Ryder Cup, had never won before. Played great at the Ryder Cup, and that opened the door, the floodgates for what we're seeing now. And I'm not going to say Sepp Straka is the next Scottie Scheffler, but he was a captain's pick on the winning Ryder Cup team, and his confidence level has soared. Played very well last week on a very tough track at Muirfield Village. He has a couple of wins under his belt on the PGA Tour. His odds are fantastic. I'm going with Sepp Straka, again, one of those Georgia Bulldogs. There's more Bulldogs in the field than any other college, and I think Sepp Straka is the surprise winner come Sunday.
That's a fun fact. Congrats to Georgia. Good job on turning out a lot of good golf stars there. As you mentioned, look, phenomenal odds for both of those guys. Doug, Patrick, we appreciate it. If you want to get ready for the U.S. Open, make sure to download and follow the First Cut podcast. Latest episode is a mega preview of the U.S. Open. They give you picks, storylines, one and done. They're breaking down Scottie, Xander, Colin, Rory, and I like how they say this in the description, the Live Boys.
HQ presented by Enterprise. Here are the odds to win this week's U.S. Open, which begins tomorrow. And Scottie Scheffler, the heaviest favorite at a major since Tiger 15 years ago. Scottie is 3-1. Everybody else at least double digits to 1. Rory McIlroy 10-1. Xander Schauffele, who won the PGA 12-1. Let's get SportsLine Sia Nijad in here, a Wednesday staple on HQ. And you have a couple of picks that you think could win this thing. And one of them is a guy who has multiple majors, but it's not Scottie Scheffler. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm going with Colin Morikawa at This thing was plus 2,000 on Sunday night, but it's gone down to like plus 1,600, plus 1,400. If you recall, Chris, I think I was on here saying I was on Morikawa last week too, and I did in fact bet him in the without Scottie Scheffler market. Here, I just took the 20-1, the 16-1 that's being offered over at FanDuel. I'm just taking that just with Scottie Scheffler. I think you could go either way, but listen, Colin was great last week. I think he's going to be great this week. The ball striking is there. The short game is certainly there. We saw the putter. The putter recently has been unbelievable. I just, it's not like it's the same course as it was last week, but I do think it's a similar skill set in large part. And Colin Morikawa checks a lot of those boxes. And I'll tell you, another guy I like is Hideki Matsuyama at plus 4,000. This thing was plus 5,000 on Sunday night. On my SportsLine article that I published Monday morning, you might have gotten that plus 5,000 number. But honestly, I think this has value down to like plus 3,300, plus 3,000, because Hideki can spike everywhere, especially when he's healthy, and it appears that he's healthy. In tough conditions, Hideki Matsuyama is great. The ball striking has been very good, again, when he's healthy. We saw him win earlier this year. We've seen him win a major. This number should not be this long, period.
Won a major 3 years ago at the Masters. How many guys is that now that we've had on the show over the last 24 hours that have picked Hideki Matsuyama to win? Three, like at least?
Four? Maybe? I don't know.
Okay, we had Patrick McDonald earlier in the show. We had Mike McClure yesterday, and Sia going with him as a long shot as well. Let's go to DFS. Who are your good buys this week?
Well, we're going to go with one name that's a little under the radar, the cheaper of the options. I'm going with Christian Bezuidenhout. I like him for a couple of reasons. One is because if you're playing DFS, he is that cheaper option that will allow you to play Scottie Scheffler if you want to do that, or Xander Schauffele, or Rory McIlroy, or anybody up top. But Christian here, 8,200 on FanDuel, a really good price considering the play we've seen from him lately. At the Memorial last week, Christian was very, very good. And frankly, in tough conditions, I really like him to save par. He's very good with the short game, both around the green and with the putter. He's elite with the putter. His one drawback is off the tee. I think he'll be relatively accurate, but he's certainly not going to be long. But we saw him with long irons last week be very good at the Memorial. I expect the same thing this week as long irons will come into play. He gained plenty on approach last week. I see the same thing there. And again, saving par is going to be really important. Around the green, putter, really like him. And then I'm going to go with Ludwig Aubert because frankly, not a lot of people are playing him. I think people are kind of scared off by the meniscus injury. I totally understand, but he was 5th place last week at the Memorial, and he's a ball striker, and he can get hot with the putter. I think we're finding some ownership leverage when it comes to Aubert.
All right, so those are DFS good buys. One of your bad buys is a bit surprising to me because he kind of falls into the Xander Schauffele bucket going into the PGA Championship, a guy who has been so close so many times, a guy who has been top 15 in 5 of his last 6 majors.
Yeah, you're referring, I'm assuming, to Viktor Hovland. That's surprising you. So here's the thing. I mean, in DFS, we are playing a game, right? And so we do have to evaluate ownership a little bit. Now, Viktor Hovland isn't extremely popular. He's not extremely owned. But I just like the pivots off of Viktor Hovland. For example, you could pivot from Viktor Hovland to Ludwig Aubert. Like that's something where you're going to save 4 or 5% from an ownership standpoint, most likely when it's all said and done. But when it comes to Viktor Hovland, I do worry about the around the green play here because this is a very specific type of around the green play with no rough. And I just wonder how he's going to handle that because off and on he does have those issues. He's a great ball striker. He can certainly get hot with the putter. But for me, when I'm playing this DFS game, I'm trying to pivot off the ownership to some degree. And when I see Ludwig Aubert right next to Viktor Hovland at lower ownership, that's just what I'm going to do. I think Hovland can have a fine tournament, but I'd rather play the upside of Aubert considering the ownership is lower. And the other guy I'm fading, this is an easy one. I faded him last week too. Patrick Cantlay. I think people thought maybe he rebounds at the Memorial because at Muirfield he has been so good. Not the case. He wasn't very good at all. I just don't think the form is there for him. The ownership is low, so you could play that DFS game with Cantlay as well. But if I'm playing that DFS game, I'd rather go to, for example, another guy that's playing poorly, Wyndham Clark, who's 3 or 4% less owned than Patrick Cantlay. So if you're going to play that game, go ahead and play with Wyndham Clark as opposed to Patrick Cantlay.
Wyndham Clark, defending champion here, U.S. Open, but of course a different course every single year, and he admits his game is just not there right now. All right, each Wednesday we have you on, Sia. You usually give us a top nationality bet. Not this week, though. What gives?
Yeah, so instead of nationality, I'm just going internationality, Chris Hassel, because I want to take a South African. I'm going to continue with this theme of going international, but we're going with the name I already mentioned, Christian Bezuidenhout. I really like him this tournament. I don't think he's going to win the tournament, although if you want to play that and sprinkle that at 110, 125 to 1, be my guest. I like him in the top 40 market. I think he comfortably fits inside this top 40 market. I think he's a pretty good course fit here in spite of the fact that he's not very long off the tee. I'm getting plus money as a top 40, plus 115 on FanDuel. Again, I think this is a guy, I think a lot of these guys who aren't necessarily great course fits, aren't necessarily long off the tee, I think saving par is really important. And if you're a short game specialist, like I consider CBS to be, I'm going to be putting my money your direction.
We should know a lot about South Africa, Amanda, considering the Immelmans are from there. What's your fun fact
Yes, okay,
from South
I found
Africa?
two. Okay, let's start with the boring one. 11 official languages.
11. Okay, that's
so they're
a lot.
way smarter than us. The longest wine route in the world.
Really? How
You
far
want
is
to know
it?
how long it is?
Yeah.
Guess.
500 miles.
528.
Oh, I did a little research on it as well. I wasn't sure.
did.
I did. How else would I know that? It's a little over 500-mile wine route, the longest
taking away my
in the world. Well, I didn't know you were going to do that. I really didn't. Sia, thank you so much for your time. We're always looking out for you in your nation plays or international plays this week. Sia's on the latest Early Edge podcast.
Do you even like wine?
I do like wine.
Just not as much as bourbon.
No. How could you? They're going to dish out Wednesday's best bets on the Early Edge podcast, which you can download right now. More U.S. Open plays, NBA Finals Game 3 plays as well.